So recently I've been really interested in cheap gear because I feel like in the last couple of years, cheaper brands have gotten better and the difference between them and the leading brands is less and less. That's why when I was looking for a new softbox for my studio, I started to look around for options. We all know that the leading brand is Aputure, especially for these LED lights, but I wanted to find options. So a couple of weeks ago, I ordered this softbox right here, the SmallRig RA-D120, or the SmallRig 120 centimeters, it's how I'm gonna call it from now on. As I said, I received it a couple of weeks ago, and I shot an unboxing then. Look what I just received. SmallRig parabolic softbox. So inside the box comes the case with the softbox inside. I really like this case. It's different than most and different than the Aputure that usually opens through here. We'll see if it's easy to pack back in, but it's a different approach and I like that. The balance ring comes protected in foam and it even comes with like a little strap so that you can tighten it. I've never seen that. Usually I just squish them into the case. This is good, this is practical. It also comes with 2 layers of diffusion, the external one, the internal one, and with the egg crate grid. So let me tell you why I bought this specific softbox. I already have a 120 centimeter softbox that I was using in my previous videos. My main struggle with that one was that it's not a quick assemble one. So I was looking for a big softbox that I can assemble quickly and disassemble quickly so that I can take it on different locations and projects. The other option for a quick assemble softbox would have been an Aputure Light Dome 2. The thing is that the Light Dome 2 is only 90 centimeters wide and I've used it in the past and I find it too harsh. That extra width really makes a difference in the source of light. So today we're going to compare the SmallRig 120 to my current softbox, to a Laofas Light Dome Mini, and to an Aputure Light Dome 2. But at the end of the day, I'll be analyzing the quality of light and giving my opinion on what I like the best. So let's start with my old softbox. First thing we have is the balance mount, and this is my first issue. This was actually made for another mount, and I bought the speed ring to adapt it to balance, but it's not very well adapted. So I actually have to put like tape because it doesn't lock very well. Second issue is that I need to install the rods one by one. I'm gonna set up a timer and see how long it takes me to put this up. Stopwatch starting now. The speed ring came off, as I said, one of the reasons I'm changing this. Done. 8 minutes to assemble it, which is not bad, but as you saw, it's not reliable. Softbox number 1, Fotodiox. The next one we're going to try is a SmallRig. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to set it up, time it, see how long it takes. Timer starting now. And this basically you just pull and it pops. Internal diffusion is set. And done. It's a little bit over 3 minutes, 3 minutes 20. So it is a lot faster, but it's not only the time, it's also the energy you put. This is a lot less stressful. The rod mechanism was slightly different and it took me a while to get used to it. On the SmallRig, you don't have that Velcro. Everything's stitched already in place and it has these loops to hold it in place. But it doesn't leave you space to put your finger in. But the rods are covered in rubber, so it's nice for the hands, it doesn't slip. Again, I think it's something that you get used to, but it's different to all the other systems I've used. The one thing that I didn't like about this model, and that's why I'm doing all these tests, is that it doesn't come with 2 diffusion layers outside. It just comes with 1. So it is a lot deeper than the other one I had, and that's the exact reason why I bought it. Because the deeper it is, the softer the light becomes. Overall, in build quality and size, is more or less what I expected. Lastly, we're going to set up the Laofas mini dome. This is a dome that I set up when I don't have space or when I need a more sourcey light. Like I said, this comes with 2 external diffusions, so I have a lighter one, a thicker one, and also an internal one. This one also comes with the grid, so it's the same for every single one. This is a lot smaller, like you can see. If I don't have a lot of space, I use this one. And the last softbox we're going to be seeing today is a Light Dome 2. And I just want to see if the SmallRig compares to this one. I got it as a kind of reference point because I know a lot of people use this ones. And I want to see what's the difference with the bigger source like the SmallRig one. The system here is pretty similar to the Laofas, where you have this Velcro, you have direct access to the rods, You pop them open and then you seal it with the Velcro, which is again different to the SmallRig one. For example, the Aputures comes with two external diffusions, one at 1.5 stops and one at 2.5 stops. And if you need to make it softer, you can always layer both. This is the Light Dome 2. It's not as wide as the other ones, but it is deep. So yeah, let's get started with the tests. This is the light we're going to be using for our test, the Godox VL150, which is my main light for most videos. And it is the reason why I chose the softbox that I chose, because I said I didn't pick the Aputure because it was too small, but Aputure has a bigger softbox, the Light Dome 150. And even though I prefer big sources, there's two reasons why I didn't choose it. One is that my light only has 150 watts of power, so I was afraid it wouldn't push enough light through that big softbox. But also the yoke on this might not be as strong to support all the weight. And actually I think I have a third reason. My third reason is that 150 was huge for this studio. It's way too big for this room and it makes it more cumbersome and less practical. So 120 centimeters was my limit. That's why I went with the SmallRig instead of an Aputure 150. Now I've been checking the footage and I did a lot of comparisons. I did each softbox individually, same spot, I didn't move anything. I shot at 20 millimeters, 35 millimeters, and 50 millimeters, always at 5.6. I had a light meter so I could match the exposure exactly, and I also had a color chart to help me white balance in post. I got a shot with each softbox, with a grid and without a grid, but when I was reviewing the footage now, I was surprised at how little difference there was in between each softbox. Because the sizes vary so much, especially with the mini dome, I thought the difference in light quality was going to be drastic. But in the end, the difference wasn't that big, which is good news for you if you're looking for a new softbox. But because I don't like when reviewers just say like, oh, it looks the same, you can buy any of those. I actually want to show you the small differences I found between each softbox. So the first thing I want to look at is the shadows. And not necessarily how much shadows there are, but how harsh is the transition between the light and the shadow. And you can see this clearly when I do the test without any softbox in front of the light, so just the bare bulb. I did this to get a control first, and you can see how the line of the shadow is very sharp. Then when you go into a Light Dome Mini, that line is a little bit more diffused. And then the Aputure Light Dome is a little bit more diffused. And then the SmallRig 120, it's almost non-existent. The line is perfectly blended. And that is exactly what I was looking for from a light source this big. The second difference that I saw is how intense the highlights look. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but there are several like hot spots in the reflections on my face, especially on my forehead and right under my eye. And you can see between the different light boxes, especially the Light Dome Mini, how those highlights are really harsh. They're like a lot brighter and catch more of my eye. And I think that makes it look cheaper in a way. The difference between the Aputure and the SmallRig softboxes is a lot less in that area, but we can still see how the bigger source kind of eliminates that hot spot. Now when we go to color shifting, I adjusted white balance in DaVinci, and actually the SmallRig is the one that performed the best. It is the one that shifted the less compared to the light. I know it all comes to preference and the Aputure one still looks very good, but as I said in the beginning, I wanted a big softbox that produced really soft light, and I think the SmallRig does that. And even though in some examples it's a little bit more washed out, you can always put the grid on and play with the angle to make it look more contrasty. It all depends on your use cases and your space. I would say the SmallRig softbox is a lot bigger, so if you don't have a lot of space, you could easily just go for the Aputure one, or maybe even the SmallRig 90 centimeters. But for the price, actually the Aputure is more expensive than this one, and I think this is more worth the money. You get a lot more versatility, you can do bigger setups, and color accuracy is a bit better according to my tests. I've used it for a photo shoot already and 2 other videos, and I actually really like the quality. It's easy to set up, it looks sturdy, it looks good. So I feel like if you're looking for a big softbox and a nice soft source, this is the way to go. The Aputure 150 might be too big and too heavy for smaller lights, and the Aputure 90 is just a little bit too contrasty for my taste. It doesn't look as natural. It looks a little bit more sourcey. I feel like a 120 centimeter softbox is the perfect size to make it look like it's coming from a window, and it looks a lot more natural. That's it for my review. For me, it's worth it for my use and the style that I was looking for, But if you're looking for something different, I hope the information was still useful so that you can make up your own mind. If you have any question, you can leave it in the comments down below. If the information was useful for you, please leave a like on this video and subscribe. I have a couple more reviews coming, especially of cheap gear that I don't find a lot of information online. So thank you for watching and see you next time.